What if I told you that the 2008 economic recession happened due to increasing number of working mothers, but also an increasing number of florists? The majority of you are probably now thinking, why florists? But think about it again. Neither the number of working mothers nor the number of florists had anything to do with the recession, right? This sequence of thoughts happened because of a specific form of bias. In 2013, I became an entrepreneur. My partner and I applied to different accelerators to help us take off a startup. After a few rejections, we finally received the call. And I answered the phone, and this nice guy from the other side of the world says those words that we were expecting so much to hear. Congratulations, you've been accepted. I was so happy. I had this feeling of accomplishment, of success. I felt how my self-esteem, which has never been too high, was actually rising. And for whatever reason, which I still cannot figure out, I dared to ask, why us? And he said, well, mainly for two main reasons. One, you're an only women founder startup. Two, you're international from Israel, and we're looking for diversity. I said nothing. But inside of me, I knew that this wasn't right. And the way I saw it then, I had only one option, to go for it. So I moved to Boston for 2 months, expecting to come back only 1 week before my wedding. Oh yes, my mother almost had a heart attack when I told her. Already there, we were struggling to raise funding. And we finally got an offer, which we had to reject because it was too abusive, our advisor said. When I went back to let the investor know, he said the following. I think you are very skilled, but soon you're getting married, right? And then you'll want a family. So I'll give you one piece of advice for free. Hire a male CEO. I was shocked. And yet again, I said nothing. That sentence had too many hidden messages. And indeed, I came back home, I got married to my dear husband, and something switched in my mind. Now that I'm married, I will want to have kids soon. I don't have a salary or a stable job. I won't have time to be a full-time mother and a full-time worker. So I quit. And I found very quickly a new job, which was challenging and gave me a monthly salary. And only 2 years later, I had my first baby. If we look at some numbers, we can see a trend of something that's happening. The OECD estimated that 71% of mothers were employed in 2019. But what is concerning are the following factors. One, the fertility rate, which is the number of children each woman has, sits around 1.5. And it has decreased since the 70s, when the average was at 2.1. And secondly, the average age at which women give birth now stands at 30, and it has increased by around 5 years since the 70s. This shows that women are feeling obliged to choose, and we're choosing what seems to make more sense. First, build a career, then get to a specific professional level, and only then have kids. And to make things even harder, a recent PwC report on women in work concluded that the coronavirus pandemic has reversed women's gains in the workplace, causing what they call a recession, where on average, women spent in 2020 around 8 more hours a week than men on unpaid childcare, forcing them to quit their jobs. Now, having said that, it is important for me to clarify something. I am not talking about the gender gap, which is the difference between women and men, as reflected in social, political, intellectual, cultural, or economic attainments. I am also not talking about the sexual harassment in the workplace, which is a different and much more complex subject. But what I am indeed talking about is a very strong form of gender bias, a bias that stems from stereotypes that link motherhood in the workplace with the lack of competence and commitment. And let me tell you, I found that there is a term for this, and it's called the maternal wall bias. To make this clear, let me give you another personal example. In a previous job I had, I was employee A, performing above expectations, working really hard, and enjoying it. After a 6-month maternity leave, I was coming back to the same organization, with the same people, at the same team. But there was one thing that wasn't the same, and that was me. I had changed. I had now different perspectives, a different way of prioritizing. I'd acquired new skills. I was a busier person and had different organizational needs. And as everything was kept equal, and I was trying to fit in employee A's shoes, I just didn't fit. I couldn't fit. I wasn't that employee anymore. I'd become a different employee. One of my peers, who was even more junior than me, was promoted during my absence to a higher level than mine. That made me feel angry. And it took me a while to accept the fact that I would need to work a lot harder to earn my promotion. I did everything that was expected of me. And I wasn't able to always do the extra mile, but when I did want to, I found only people tripping me. It's fine, I know you have a baby at home. You won't have time to do this, I'll ask someone else. And that is an example of the maternal wall bias. And it seems that it's not just me saying it. There was a leading study on maternal wall stereotypes conducted by Professor of Law Joan C. William in California. And she concluded, and I'm quoting, "Working women are well respected in the office until they have children." In her study, she found that compared to women with identical resumes, mothers were 79% less likely to be hired, 100% less likely to be promoted, offered $11,000 less in salary for the same position, and were held to higher performance and punctuality standards. Look, let's be honest. Being a mother is hard work, and being successful at work is hard as well. And I have all my respect for the women that have chosen to do one or the other. I mean, yes, I will admit publicly that I'm guilty for leaving the house with 2 different colored shoes, or for losing my phone maybe 30 times a day, that my kids are the most important thing in my life, that my time is less flexible now, and that my days are much busier. But I'm sure you've heard this before. If you want something to be done, ask the busier person to do it. Its author is still uncertain. Lucille Ball, Benjamin Franklin, Elbert Hubbard. But what is certain is the fact that since I became a mother, time became my most precious commodity. And this is known to be true for all mothers out there. Katrina Lake, founder and recently former CEO of Stitch Fix, who was holding her young son in her arms while ringing the NASDAQ opening bell, said that becoming a mother taught her how to be fully present at home, but also fully present at work. Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand and first female leader to bring her child to the United Nations General Assembly. She said that accepting and sharing the imperfections of motherhood may be the key to effective management at work. And me, I haven't been able to reach this level yet, and I don't know if I ever will. But I'm aiming high, and since I became a mother, I went through a process of growth. I matured and I became stronger. I became more responsible, more courageous, more assertive, more sensitive, more empathetic, better with time management, more ambitious, more productive. All skills that when looking at them from the workplace perspective, come in to be very useful. So no, I don't want anyone making any assumptions about my commitment or my competence because I have a baby or 2 at home. This is for me to decide and to demonstrate. And if I want, I can be at least as good a worker as anyone else in the organization. But yes, currently it's really hard. And you know what? For those who do make false assumptions, yes, of course it's our loss, but it's your loss as well. And it's the world's loss, and it's the company's loss, and it's the future's loss. And as Anne-Marie Slaughter writes in her book, Unfinished Business, there is a big need for a change. But what exactly is to be changed? Government regulations, the tax code, workplace policies, individual behavior, attitudes, education? I don't really know, but it seems to be that the opportunity to implement any of these changes is now. Now that all of the above are being reinvented due to the pandemic. And I want to share one last thing, and this is my dream. One day, I want to be able to tell my 2 daughters, yes, you can. You can be whoever you want to be without apologizing or having to hide it. You can be a great mother if that's what you want to be. And you can build a great career if that's what you want to do. And you can actually succeed in both at the same time if that's what you decide. But for this to be true, they need our help. So let's do this together. And let's do it now. Thank you.